Welcome back. We're talking to Ken Leslie about why this whole funding issue with shelters and the block grant money and emergency solutions money, why all of that really is important for us to think about as a community. And as we were going to break, I asked you that question. You know, it's tough out here right now. Everybody's having a hard time. There are lots and lots of issues. I know that the economy is getting better for some, but you know, it's really not getting better for most. I think the people with the feet on the ground would actually say. So why is this an issue that matters? I mean, as taxpayers, we want to make sure that our tax dollars are used in the most appropriate way possible.
Absolutely.
So why does this matter?
If it's your son who got laid off, right, and can no longer provide, and you've moved out of town and he has no family here, do you want him to go into family house shelter because it exists and it's here, or do you want him to have to go to the encampment down at the Maumee River?
Well, of course, I mean, you know what, but of course, I mean, the obvious answer is you don't want anybody living on a bridge.
Right,
on a
right,
bridge.
right.
But is it inappropriate to have a conversation that says, let's take a look at the way we're providing these services?
We should, but the problem is that we're not doing it data-based. It's not based on any data. We have no real data collected on what are the issues that people come in, what are the processes that were used to fix it, how long are they able to get off quicker. If we had an organized system, each of the different areas that people become unhoused, if it's mental illness, we'd be tracking what systems worked best to get them back into housing.
So you're saying that these changes are not based on best practices?
Oh, absolutely not, absolutely not. They're based on guesses, and that we don't even get all of the numbers in, but they're using all of the numbers that they made up for funding.
Made up?
Yeah. Cherry Street,
Ken Leslie. You're
talking about the numbers?
They made these numbers up, like just out of whole cloth?
Right.
Come on.
They don't have all of the numbers for the last year and a half.
That's different, though.
Right.
That's different.
Cherry Street's been trying to give the TLC their funds, right? And TLC has been saying, oh no, we can't do it, it's technically impossible. But they have you see, I wasn't going to get into all this stuff, but I'll just say that technically it's a database, one database, and they're the same database.
Want to know,
yeah.
So, okay.
They're the same database. So Cherry Street has been exporting the data, and TLC is saying, oh no, we can't get it. So they're not using TLC's or Cherry Street's full data in the big numbers. They did on the point in time survey.
But what you're saying is, or what at least I think I hear you saying, is that this is just sort of off the cuff kind of planning.
Yeah.
That it's not really planning.
Yeah, because there's no, again, a good example.
So what's the Toledo Lucas County Homelessness Board's role in all this? Aren't they the big planners for this stuff?
I'll say this, that in the council hearings that you were at, Rodney Schuster, who is a board member of the TLC board, was up there, I won't use the word protesting, but supporting the refunding of the shelters. So Rodney was going against what the TLC board said. So you have one of their board members against, I mean, it really is clustering.
Huh. Okay. Well, you know what? I can hear folks out there who know about this issue and who are advocates saying, well, that's Ken Leslie. He's got all kinds of skin in that game. He's really going to support, the sustaining of those shelters and the sustaining of this system, no matter what.
Oh no,
because that's
true.
What he does.
That's not true. Because it's got to be fact-based about what's best for the people that they serve. Absolutely.
So
100%.
your issue is not that the system couldn't use a good look over and maybe some streamlining and all of that. You're just saying that it needs to be done with some evidence-based data.
Absolutely, and in the direction that HUD really intends, because they're saying that HUD's saying that we have to do this. Well, the fact is we have Bill Faith is on with Ohio on the record in the paper saying, no, this is Toledo's mess. They're not doing it like everybody else.
Tell folks who Ohio is.
That it's the Homeless Service Agency that represents all the agencies in the state. It's a statewide thing. And Bill's wife is, Barb Poppy, is a great woman, is on the Interagency Council for Homelessness, federal level, so they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They're saying Toledo's doing it wrong. You had Sean Donovan in a meeting with the National Coalition for the Homeless and Mark Johnson say, no, Toledo's doing it wrong. They're the poster child.
Why are we doing it wrong?
Do it.
What are we doing that's so wrong?
Because what HUD wants, they want people to be able to land in a safe place and end up back into housing as soon as possible. What it's being interpreted, in my opinion, in Toledo, and you know what, I'm just an outside observer in all this. I don't get federal funds. I own a business. I've been doing this as a volunteer for a bunch of years.
For a long time.
And so I really tried to stay based on what's the truth that helps the people, not the politics.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you close the shelters, people will have nowhere to go. and we'll end up like every other city with homeless encampments.
Yeah, but what you're saying, Ken, is that they need to do more research. They, the planners, in this whole conversation,
Right.
need to do more research. It needs to be evidence-based research. I don't think anybody would disagree with you on that. It needs to include a lot of best practices. Everybody would stipulate that was important to do. And I suspect that people looking in at this process would say, well, they have a whole year to do that. Because,
Absolutely.
Because the shelters, according to the city, are not closing right now.
Right. Okay.
They have a whole year to do that.
Great. They have a whole. Here's you bring up a lot of different little tentacles on the octopus. The first is the budget year for Family House began July 1st. They still haven't decided. They still don't know. They were cut $82,000.
Right.
So let's say you're on Medicare and they come to you and say, oh, by the way, in 2 weeks Medicare's going to get cut. You have no planning in advance. Now, should Medicare even be going to you? Should it be something? Now they're saying no. You don't get Medicare anymore. We're going to give you this money over here, but that's only guaranteed for a year. All right, so that's that year. Or do we have an obligation to provide Medicare to those in the community who become unhoused? The 3, 4, 5,000, whatever the number is, who hit an emergency, whose lives get dismantled, and they end up needing a place to go. People don't go to shelters because it's pleasurable. That's a last stop desperation to end up in a shelter. They're not going to have apartments for people to go into, so where will they go? Answer that question yourself. Where will they go? The only logical answer is into encampments on the river and other places. I know it sounds inflammatory, and I'm okay with that, but people have to be able to see 3 to 5 years down the road what will happen.
Sure.
Federal government wants us to be able to take care of people in our community the way they're supposed to be taken care of. Now, you talk about the planning in another year. The reality is, right now, the TLC came up with this plan. Well, it got 2, not 1, 2 letters of no confidence from TAEA, the Toledo Area Alliance to End Homelessness. So there isn't any real communication. There isn't any real openness.
Now, the Toledo TAEA, though, is an organization made up of service providers.
Right.
Isn't that right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So they might very well feel threatened by what Deb Conklin's group is doing.
But they gave that vote of no confidence in the planning process, the fact that they were excluded from the planning process, not at the result.
Okay.
So the result is something different and another issue. And one matter, I've been all over the country. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and our programs right now are in 14 counties and 3 states. So we get to look at different continuum of cares. If you go up to Washtenaw County, all right, what you have instead are a bunch of agencies that participate in the planning process. They voluntarily gave up 10 or 30% of their CDBG funding voluntarily to be able to forward the community goal. Our agencies are not given that opportunity to be a part of the planning process.
Well, but
they're
you
being
keep saying
dictated
that,
to.
and then again in this article that I mentioned earlier, I don't think I can find it very quickly, but Deb Conklin says in this article that people were not excluded from the planning process.
Yeah, she says that.
But you're saying that's untrue.
There's 2 letters from TAEA, the whole body of TAEA, to the TLC board, saying, we were excluded from the process, we want to be a part of the process. So you have Deb saying that, but the reality is different. A lot of people, Deb said she never said that the goal was to close the shelters. Well, she said that to a reporter, the reporter printed it, and then to me, I never said that.
All right, so we've got a few minutes left. How do we fix this? What do we do? Because this is really unpleasant.
It is, it really is. And for this year, in my opinion, if I was the king of the world, I think that we should make a commitment as a community that this percentage of the CDBG funds will always go to homeless services. They're saying, they're getting reduced. Next year, CDBG is up another, I think, $370 million. So they're saying, it's going down. That's not true. Our tax
nationwide
dollars,
it's up.
Right, correct. Nationwide it's up. It's a reflection of where our economy is, how many people are paying taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So things are moving up in Toledo. So we need to protect that asset, because without the shelters, it's our children and our children's children who will have no place to go. And when that happens, we as a community are really going to be tough.
The reality is, no matter which side of this issue you come down on, the reality is this whole idea of ending homelessness is a monumental.
It's impossible.
Feat.
It's
when you look at that,
stupid.
when you look at, those were Ken's words, not mine. When you take a look at the fundamental issues that cause homelessness, we're talking about mental health issues. We're talking about drug addictions. We're talking about economic issues.
Unemployment,
underemployment. So all of those have to go away before you can actually end homelessness.
Exactly. You will never be able to end homelessness, but you can create a system that will end homelessness for every single individual who becomes unhoused in our community. You can do that, and that's where the money needs to be spent.
Yeah. So one last question. We have like 30 seconds. What on a scale of A to E, all right, A to E, what would you give our city council for management of this process? With the Department of Neighborhoods.
City council is separate. I love that city council is saying, because you had the citizens say, fund them. You had this plan come out of nowhere. They're saying, no, don't. Now city council is saying, wait a minute. How, why?
Yeah.
Let's give them money. Now they're trying to figure out how and where. Some say general fund, some say
lots of proposals on the table.
Some say we need to include this agency or that agency. But the reality is, we have as a community have to decide: do we want the federal money that we pay, the taxes that we pay, to keep these places open so that when we need them, when our kids need them, they'll be there.
What grade would you give City Council?
A for effort.
A for effort.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think people ought to know that they have really dug their feet in at City Council. They're taking this very seriously. They are trying to find a solution in a very difficult situation. And I think as well, we should point out that the Department of Neighborhoods, I think, is also trying to find a solution. And hopefully people will do what's best for the community and come together and
I love Lori.
find a conversation.
She's a brilliant woman. I mean, she really is.
We got to go. Kenny's got to stop talking. We'll be back in just a second.